All right, here we have a gang of three autistic individuals who travel the world, talking about, presenting on, consulting on, and setting up programs, entire programs in some cases, for supporting autistic individuals. And in doing so, we promote fulfilling and productive lives for autistic individuals, and to make that the rule rather than the exception. So the three of us here, I'm here calling in from New York, next to Adelphi University. That's where I teach. I was diagnosed as autistic after being struck by the regressive autism bomb at 18 months. I was diagnosed at 2.5. Fortunately, my parents refuted the professionals' recommendations for institutionalization in favor of what we would today refer to as an intensive home-based early intervention program, emphasizing music, movement, sensory integration, narration, and imitation. It probably looked a lot more like floor time, and I say that on purpose because we have some floor time expertise from Emil Gauses, who's going to talk, may mention that when we get to Emil. And with the work my parents did, speech began to return at age 4. Often we hear about the intense strengths and interests of autistic people. My first interest being at age 4. I was found by my parents taking apart a watch with a knife. I would pop open the back, extract the motor, remove some of the gears, spin them around, and put it all back together again, and the watch still worked. And there weren't any pieces left over. My parents, noticing this, instead of staring at the doors of the closed doors of disability, disorder, and deficit, they looked at the open doors of ability, and soon provided all kinds of other devices to take apart and put together. Language started coming back at age 4. By age 6, it was regular school kindergarten. I was a social and academic catastrophe. You know what happens to us autistics and others who have differences in school. Fortunately, school systems are beginning to realize that bullying is not a developmental phase that people need to go through. And academically, being about a grade behind in most of my subjects, I'd spend most of my time reading books on my favorite subjects, such as music, electricity, mechanics, volcanoes, dinosaurs, earthquakes, space exploration, aviation, and other things. And sometimes even wondering, as I was reading these books in the back of the room in a sort of geographical inclusion setup, is there more to school? Like, should we be doing math in groups or something? But that's what I did. Then on to middle school, middle and high school. You don't need to be autistic to have difficulties in middle and high school. But for me, it was actually easier. And because I was able to engage in my highly focused interest of music, now I joined the band, had a group of other people in which to share a favorite activity. Of course, being autistic, I had to take it overboard. And I would spend hours in the instrument closet, checking out the different instruments, learning about them, taking them apart, assembling 2 or 3 instruments together to create these horrific contraptions that never should have seen the light of day. And then when I heard that a requirement for a degree in music education was that you had to learn all the instruments, well, that just seemed to be the thing to do, and that's what I did. From my bachelor's all the way through my doctoral coursework, I completed my doctoral coursework in music education, but then started getting more interested in autism. So I defected to the School of Education and got my doctorate in special education. That's when I started writing my books, initially an autobiography, Beyond the Wall, and then other books until my advisor said, stop writing books and hurry up and finish your degree, which I did. And I started giving presentations initially around the country and then around the world. And now I spend my time either teaching or researching into issues related to autism at Adelphi University as a professor of special education. When I'm not doing that, I am traveling the world, about a different country once a month. So far I've been to 58 countries talking about autism and counting, 58 countries, where I enjoy my travels, and I find there's a lot to learn from other cultures. When I'm not doing that, I'm writing books or articles on autism and giving music lessons to autistic individuals. So that's what brings me here. We're going to get an introduction from Bill Peters as well, as he'll tell us a little bit about himself, initially from the upper northwest of the United States, and then jumping out to working in Ukraine for, what was it, 10 years?
Close to 10 years. It's,
okay.
Close to 10 years. I worked in Ukraine for 10 years, then worked in Azerbaijan for the last 3, now heading for Turkey, then the UK, then looking for another country to work in. So that's what I'm up to now.
All right. So we're going to hear more from Bill, and then we're also going to hear from Emil Gauses, who is president of ICDL. Is that right?
That's correct. I'm the president of the board of directors, but
Yes,
I do a lot more things, Stephen.
Okay, great. All right, so I got part of it right anyways. I'm also an autistic person, also who travels around the world. And I could talk a lot more about Bill and Emil, but Bill knows his history better than I do, and Emil likewise. So we're gonna go over to Bill, and let's take 7 minutes to tell us about yourself, and then we'll flip over to Emil and do the same thing.
Sweet. You said 7 minutes? All right.
did.
Doable. All right. So, hi, I'm Bill Peters. I am 42 years old. As Stephen said, I started out in the Pacific North. Well, I was born in Iowa, spent a good majority of my summers in my childhood in Iowa. We moved from Iowa when I was younger to the Pacific Northwest, went to school up in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, graduated high school there, went back and forth between the Midwest and the Pacific Northwest as a child, traveled all around the USA. In the last 10 years, I have been in Ukraine with Child with a Future, working as their field man. I work with them going community to community, working with individual families, working with multiple families, working with groups, civic groups, camps, things like that, building bridges in between autistic individuals and their families, in between autistic individuals and their communities. That's what I do. For the last 3 years, I've been living and working in Azerbaijan. My time here is coming to an end. I've done work with families and other things here in Azerbaijan and really enjoyed it. Then I'm heading for Turkey for a bit to help out a family that I know there. Then heading to the UK, and then looking for another nation to do my field work in. So that's what we're up to right now. I really love doing this work. I do one-to-one work with families, with individuals, with communities. I give talks on inclusion at schools. I give talks on all types of subjects in communities, schools, and professional settings, and I really enjoy doing it. And that's really all I have to say about my background. I'll move over to Emilio.
All right, so we'll be back. We'll be back to you for more, Bill. And now we're on to Emil. So you're up to bat.
Thank you very much, and it's an honor for me to be able to present with you, Stephen, especially with Bill as well. My name is Dr. Emil Gauses, and I am a postdoctoral fellow at the University of South Africa. As you could hear from my accent, that I'm a South African. And I wear different hats in society. I'm a researcher, which I said that I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of South Africa. I am also the president of the board of directors of ICDL, the International Council for Development and Learning, which is based in the US, and also they spread their wings throughout the world. I also represent underrepresented groups on the Commonwealth Disabled Peoples Forum, where I represent neurodiversity and other groups in 54 different countries. And basically what my main responsibility is to basically advocate for neurodiverse rights and underrepresented groups on higher political level, meeting prime ministers, meeting presidents, and also help to develop policies to create a more inclusive and accessible society. I've recently been elected on the South Africa's response to the United Nations, where we work on the South African policy, the legislation. And yeah, I was also part of INSAR, the International Council of the international, Stephen, help me out. INSAR is the
International Society for Autism Research.
Society. Yeah, International Society for Autism Research, where I recently was the secretary as well. But I've noticed that one basically can't do too much, as you need to select a few things to do. But yet again, I see my role where I find my advocacy and my advocacy and my research combined together, because they fill each other on. As I believe that we are in a society where there's still a lot of awareness that still needs to be done in different sectors as well. And for me, it's very important for where I'm coming from, because, what drives my advocacy is the fact that in South Africa, we've got the highest suicide rate in the world when it comes to autism. The research says that the living age of an autistic adult in South Africa is 35 years old. We've got the highest suicide rate. The unemployment rate is at 32%, which is also the highest in the world as well. And for me, it's all about combining my research and advocacy, but also more importantly, contribute and make an impact in different sectors of the world as well. And my main aim is to be able to make sure that we bring the global south as well to the map as well, because as we know as researchers that this field is very Northern Hemisphere based. And we need more research coming from the continent of Africa as well. We need more perspectives from African countries about the experiences of autistic individuals. And I find that always that although we are in a similar situation, the spectrum never changes, and there's a lot of similarities that we can learn from each story, learn from different adults. Our experiences are totally different based on our socioeconomic circumstances, our socioeconomic climate. So for me, it's all about making sure that we understand, learn from each other, but also try to find ways in which we can assist each other to make sure that we create a more inclusive and accessible society as well. And although we live in the 21st century where there's a lot of awareness, there's a lot more autism self-advocates, there's a lot more awareness that's created, there's still a long way to go when you think about the exclusion that these individuals experience. As you would hear in my speech, I struggle with speech, and due to the fact that I was non-speaking till the age of 15. and eventually I basically went through school, and I basically graduated to high school, graduated high school, went to university, studied teaching, and experienced different forms of discrimination, victimizations based on the fact that my speech developed at a later stage. But let me tell you, the reason why I'm sitting here and talking to you is the fact that I had a mom that never gave up. And I also advocate not only for inclusive education, but also for families to create the support systems to support them. The value of support, and that is fundamental. So that's in a nutshell my introduction.
Emil, thank you very much for a very interesting introduction. And from what I know of both Bill and now Emil, and myself as well, one common denominator is a mother that never gave up. A mother who knew that their autistic child could do a lot more than what the dire prognoses of the professionals provided for us at that time. So you've given some nice introduction. The next topic has to do with what you do and your role in the international community. Emil, you got into it to some extent. Bill, you did a little bit more. So now we can go a little bit more deeply into that. My role in the international community, I believe, is to bring people together and to consider and to realize that we have more similarities than differences. Autistic people around the world, I find, are the same. What is different is the amount of awareness and amount of knowledge in society. So part of our jobs, the three of us, is to provide that education, beginning with awareness and then moving up to acceptance and appreciation as we take action in making lives better for autistic individuals around the world. So let's see, let's go to Bill Peters, will tell us a little bit more about what you do in the international community, maybe describe some of what you did for Child with Future, what you did at House of Dreams, and what you hope to continue doing. And then we'll move over to Emil after.
So what I've done first with Child with the Future is I do a lot of like community relations, living in communities, living with families, helping families understand their autistic loved ones, helping the autistic understand their families, building bridges between families and their communities. This is really what I do. It's on the ground, hands-on, in the community work is what I did with Child with the Future. At House of Dreams, I was more of a community outreach specialist and worked with families in the community that came to a center. What I really want to do is get back to the hands-on in the community, building bridges in between autistics and their families, autistics and the communities around them, autistics and wider society is really what I'm hoping to do once I go from Azerbaijan to elsewhere. I've enjoyed my time in Azerbaijan, but it's now time to move on and head for other places. I really love being what we call informally being a field man for CWF, going to different communities, going to different places, meeting people and helping them where they were at, and helping them figure out how we get to a better place and how we work on skills and how we do things. And that was all what is really important to me, is working in the real world, building bridges, building connections, and building understanding, getting things done. I am a very hands-on in the community, advocating, educating. I would give seminars, I would give talks, I would give speeches. we would do Q&As with the community. I would give talks on inclusion and other subjects. This is really what I love doing. So that's what I've done in the international community.
All right, Bill. Thank you. Some great responses, great things that you're doing, and whatever we can do to help you continue your work in whatever country you land in, that will be great. As we are multinational, international, it's also important to be culturally responsive and relevant to the culture that we're in. So, for example, part of the work I do includes developing employment programs and curriculum for other countries. A colleague and I, Robert Nassif, to be specific, Dr. Robert Nassif and I were asked by the Qatar Foundation of Qatar to develop a 40-hour train-the-trainer program for their autistic and otherwise neurodivergent population. And one thing that we both paid very careful attention to was to make sure we were culturally relevant. And an example of that is that in the United States and Western cultures, as we think about preparing autistic individuals for the world of work and teaching responsibility, a common way to do that is to start with household chores such as making the bed, feeding the cat, helping to clean things up around the house. And that's all well and good for us in the United States and other Western cultures. But to bring that suggestion perhaps to Qatar and some other countries where other people are hired to take care of these things, children are not involved in these household chores. So while it's okay to mention them while providing suggestions and consulting to other countries, it's important to find reasonable substitutes for these types of activities, because otherwise we just appear as an ugly, bossy American who thinks they know the best of everything, the biggest, the baddest, and whatnot. And we're used to doing that in the United States because we're separated by two big oceans. So it does create a bit of isolationism. However, there's a big world out there, and there's many different ways of doing things, and there's always important things to learn from other individuals. Anyways, I think I'll leave it at that, and we're going to move over to Emil.
Thank you, Stephen. Very interesting perspectives from Bill as well as yourself. You know, Stephen, this is a very interesting question. As for myself, my involvement is basically all over the place. A research avenue, yes, speaking at conferences, but also mostly attending higher political meetings. You know, I think this was actually the first year that I've been globally recognized and also putting my footprint down on the global scale when it comes to advocating for neurodiversity rights. As you would know that, Stephen, you were part of, I was basically the organizer of the first ever United Nations session where autism self-advocates from the continent of Africa shared their stories to the United Nations. And although it was an online event, because we got support from the South African government and also the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum as well that supported this. And we are also planning to have a similar event again at the Global Disability Summit next year in Berlin, which is also a very big, I would say, meeting where the new Sustainable Developmental Goals will be set up for the next 30 years. So I see my role as someone that can contribute on different avenues as well. And my footprint, like I said, was I still believe that academically I can contribute a lot as my written work, my research that I'm currently focusing on will be an open access available worldwide, talking from an insider's perspective on the experiences of an autism self-advocate, autistic researcher, and also autistic husband from the global south, and specifically from South Africa, third world country. So that we can make society and the globe aware of the experiences of autistic individuals in third world countries. You know, the advocacy that I do is also on social media. You know, I've got I've got a Facebook page which the audience can join called the Special Need Cafe, which is a Facebook page my mother-in-law created for myself and my wife, where we share our experiences as an autistic couple. And, you know, for me, it was all about, you know, making a difference. And I always say that if I can inspire one parent, then it will be all worth it. And for me personally, the reason why I got into self-advocacy was to improve my self-confidence as well, to help me with depression. You know, I was years ago, due to the fact that I was non-speaking, I was segregated and isolated in social groups. And I was on the verge of committing suicide. Well, I actually attempted to commit suicide as well. And then the psychologist at the hospital recommended that I do autism self-advocacy. And through autism self-advocacy, you know, I got the opportunity to speak at major conferences. It's all about inspiring one parent. And then it became on the global stage where I represent South Africa at the United Nations. And from there on, my international portfolio grew as well. So, and of course, you know, throughout the years, you know, ICDL played an important part in my development as well. And being now the president of the board of directors also helped me to basically create awareness on the importance of that interpersonal connection. So for me, it's all about my contribution is, of course, on policy level, but also more importantly, making parents aware of the different cultures, the different ways in which we view things, the way we grew up. You know, as we know that we are working in a field where there's a lot of controversy when it comes to words that we use, sensitivity of specific phrases. But for me, it's all about making sure that creating awareness surrounding those aspects, so that we understand that different countries have got different traditions, different cultures. And that is the difference. But although we are, like I said, although we are in different countries, we are in the same boat. And I see a lot of similarities as well from different narratives that I've been studying as well. So definitely that will be my contribution on the international stage, continuing on the international stage as well. But yeah, we need to bring the global south on the map when it comes to understanding, because that is how we will create a more inclusive and accessible society for everyone.
Yeah, Emil, you're absolutely right. The global advocacy for autistic individuals. Bill dropped out, but I'm sure he'll be back momentarily. One thing that you brought up was suicide, and which leads to the subject of mental health. And we know now from participatory-based action research, where we authentically involve autistic individuals, what is most concerning for autistic individuals is access to mental health support. And along with that, we know that suicide is a leading cause of death in autistic individuals, which is why it's so important to be looking for ways to address this issue. So, for example, I'm involved with Teal Benavides as team leads for a $9.2 million patient care outcome research institute, where we're going to compare two cognitive behavioral therapy approaches or interventions, I should say, to eliminate suicide or suicide prevention for autistic individuals. We've begun year 3, and we look forward to receiving data on that. And a question that we need to ask, and this applies on a global scale, is our mental health challenges and suicidality, do those run alongside? Are they co-occurring with autism because the person is an autistic individual? Or do we need to consider that the challenges autistic people go through in integrating into society? So an interesting thought experiment, you can't do this experiment because it's highly unethical, but I wonder what the rate of mental health challenges and suicide rate and things related to that would be for the typical population if they endured the same challenges that autistic people have in achieving success, be it within the community, making friends, employment, and whatever else, other aspects of life. Or putting it the other way, if we didn't have these challenges that typical people don't have, how much lower would the rate be for autistic individuals? So now we're going to move on to what we've learned from the travels around the world. And one thing that I've learned, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is that autistic people are the same everywhere. I also find that parents are the same. They want the best for their kids. Teachers want to be teachers. They want to teach everybody, including autistic individuals. Often teachers fear doing so because they don't have the necessary support in order to do so. So what we need is to ramp up the levels of support in areas that have, well, everywhere, but especially in areas that have low levels of support, low resource areas. And that brings me to what I've observed about organizations for autistic individuals. And that is, no matter where I go, even in what you might consider as the lowest resource areas in the world, I so often find pockets of near best practice. And usually that starts with a few parents banding together, doing their research, and creating a sort of center for their autistic children. Word spreads, other autistic children from the community end up going to this school center or whatever it's called, again with near best practice based on the parental research. And some of these organizations grow very large and become national and multinational in scope. So some examples of these very large organizations include Child with Future, started by a parent or parents of autistic people. We also have the Autism Society of America and also the Autism Research Institute, both started by a parent of an autistic person. We also have Autism Speaks. Even though there's a lot of controversy related to Autism Speaks, that was also started by, well, it wasn't a parent, it was a grandparent in this case. Fortunately, Autism Speaks, things are getting better over there, and they're moving along the 4As of autism as well, from awareness to acceptance and on to appreciation. We still have a lot of work to do in the action, that 4th A, for Autism Speaks and for many other organizations. So there is that parental input. I see Bill is waving his hand. So now we're going to go on to Bill. What have you learned from your travels around the world?
I've learned how to help out in diverse communities, help out in different places, work with that group of which you spoke, Child with a Future, which I love them. I love working with them. I look forward to hopefully working with them in the future, but I love them. They were an excellent organization to work for. I really love working in the community with diverse people and diverse communities and building bridges. Sorry about dropping out like that. My internet decided to go bleep and just do weird things. But that's really what I am into, these more diverse things and places.
All right, so the diversity of what we see. It looks like Emil is having a little bit of trouble, and he's working his way back as well. And this diversity, we are enriched by this diversity because there's so much that we can learn from other cultures and other ways of supporting autistic individuals. So we've got about 10 minutes to go. And I think our next topic of discussion is takeaways. And it looks like I'm the only one here. We've got Emil trying to reconnect. We've got Bill, who has dropped off completely, and now I don't see them at all. So we're down to the last 10 minutes. So what is my takeaway? My takeaway from all of this, and in my travels and my experiences in supporting autistic people around the world, whether it was speaking at conferences, consulting, meeting autistic individuals, sometimes consulting to families. Bill did, and I hear Emil talking. So Emil,
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, it says you're connecting, but I can still hear you.
Good. Thank you. Apologies. I'm trying to find my way to connect. But the question was, what did I learn from my international travels? For me, it was all about understanding the different cultures, understanding the different traditions, understanding the different views in which neurodiversity is viewed, the different lenses towards neurodiversity, the different perspectives, and also, more importantly, how culture influenced our perceptions, and the way we perceive the education levels of individuals. That's for me very important, understanding how other cultures' beliefs contribute towards the perceptions towards neurodiversity or autism. So for me, Stephen, that was the most important lesson, that although, like I said to you, although we are in different countries, we need to understand the specific cultural aspects towards individuals' life as well, because as we know, as a South African, religion is also part of the way in which we communicate, in which we live our lives. And that basically helped me to develop the person that I am based on the values that I have. And I think that also contributed a lot towards my mother, that never gave up, the support that she provided me as well. So I think when it comes to the different political climates, which is very important, but I think the cultural aspects and learning from each other and religion is a very important thing that we mustn't underestimate.
Yeah, Emil, that's a great point that you make about religion, and that's in some ways that's a little bit of you can think of it as the last great frontier, or one of the great frontiers, and that is I'm seeing increased interest in religious organizations across many different religions. Increased interest in learning more about autism and more generally neurodivergent individuals and those otherwise with various disabilities, and finding ways to include them in their activities, including these individuals, in meaningfully including these individuals into houses of worship. There's a lot of work being done on that. I've been doing some work. I've been often when I travel, I'll find a religious house of worship, and often they'll ask me to do a presentation. Usually it's impromptu, and often it's with Bill Peters, because I'm often traveling with Bill Peters, and we'll go find a Jewish temple or shul, and when they hear that about our experience and background in autism, they start asking a lot of questions, and it becomes a bit of a spontaneous autism conference. And I've taken that to the next level, where I've developed materials specifically for religious organizations. As for Bill, unfortunately, he's still having difficulties connecting. So he would like it for you to, if you wish to contact him. I'm going to get his email from WhatsApp momentarily, and that way I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
And anyways, we'll go to Emil, and
Yes.
I'm trying to get that from Bill.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, but participants can contact me through social media. Special Kneed Cafe, Special Kneed KNEID Cafe on Facebook, which is a Facebook page that myself and my family have that shares our experiences. I'm also on LinkedIn as well, and where participants can basically also contact us and basically to find out more information. Thank you.
All right, and as for Bill, he can be reached at Q Key, so letter Q, then K as in kite, E as in elephant, Y as in yellow, 29, the number 29, 29, at gmail.com. And for those who want to connect with me, I can be reached at S Shore. So that's S as in Sam, S as in Sam, H as in hotel, O as in orange, R as in rabbit, E as in elephant, at Adelphi, that's my university, A as in apple, P as in Peter, H as in hotel. I got to spell Adelphi again. A as in apple, D as in dog, E as in elephant, L as in Larry, P as in Peter, H as in hotel, I as in Indian, .edu, because it's a university. And any one of us will be glad to carry the conversation on further based on your interests. And if you misplace the contact for any of us, as long as you get a hold of one of the three of us, then we can refer your message and information to one of the other three. So it looks like we've got a little bit less than 3 minutes. Any parting words from Emil before we sign off? Possibly Emil can't hear us, or if he can, he can't respond. So my parting words are, the conversation has just begun. Please continue to connect with us and to other resources such as Autism Today for additional information about supporting autistic individuals who are in your life. And if you are autistic, certainly connect with us as well, as we all work towards making fulfilling and productive lives for autistic individuals the rule rather than the exception.